Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Zhou looked at Mingxian. He asked in confusion, what are the monks from the Heaven Choice Temple doing here in Golden Court Mountain? He remembered that when the 4 divine monks died, the Heaven Choice Temple had no choice but to leave their temple to prevent themselves from being the target of revenge. Then, nobody knew where they moved to. Besides, Zhou never had the intention to look for them in the first place. After the incident with the Temple of Great Emptiness, the Heaven Choice Temple had lost its former glory. The Buddhist master, Su Jing, was the only elite left. He had no choice but to lead his disciples as they moved and lived in seclusion. Mingxian shook his head and said, I don't know, master. At this moment, Zhu Honggong, old 8th, waved his boxing gloves about as he appeared at the entrance to the Great Hall. He was about to kneel and greet Zhou when Mingxian frowned and said, Old 8th, enough of your shenanigans. Get in here right now. Zhu Honggong chuckled sheepishly before he ran in. Greetings, master. What's the matter? Zhu Honggong bowed and said, Zhou Jifeng told me that some people from the Heaven Choice Temple are here. I merely came to have a look. Zhou said, what does the arrival of the people from the Heaven Choice Temple have to do with you? Zhu Honggong instinctively pressed a hand to his chest. Upon seeing this, Mingxian smiled knowingly. You're worried that they're here for your Zen tunic? Zhu Honggong was slightly embarrassed at being seen through. Mingxian said, do you even know where you are? Even if you give them the courage of 10 lions, they won't dare to touch you. You have a point, 4th senior brother. At this exact moment, Pan Zhong brought Buddhist master Su Jing and the other monks into the Great Hall. Su Jing straightened a palm. The dozens of monks behind him joined their palms together as well as they bowed. Amitabha. Greetings, dear benefactors. Zhou looked at the other monks and said, one doesn't visit a temple without a cause. What business do you have here in the Evil Sky Pavilion? Su Jing said, to return a favor. His reply was short and simple. Zhu Honggong scratched his head. Return a favor? Abbot Su Jing spoke slowly, Amitabha. I pray that I may share my good fortunes with everyone, keep them from harm, and repent from our sins in this life and in our past lives. Hold up, hold up. Mingxian waved his hand irritably and said, spare us from your drivel. I'll take it that you're really here to return the favor. Buddhist master Su Jing stopped chanting the sutra. Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. I don't understand it as well. Su Jing did not find this awkward at all. He said, I heard that Golden Court Mountain's barrier has vanished for a long time now. Knowing the 10 great sects, they will surely launch an attack soon. Although the Heaven Choice Temple is a far cry from the Temple of Great Emptiness, we're not an ungrateful bunch. Mingxian said mockingly, I've never met people like you before. I wonder if I'm dreaming. As he said this, he pretended to pinch himself. Su Jing repeated his words. The Heaven Choice Temple has recruited 1,000 new disciples. They will be here as soon as I summon them. He was speaking with a righteous expression, and he did not seem to be joking. Mingxian's smile vanished, and he looked at his master. He decided that it was best to leave this matter to his master. Zhou looked at the monks present as he said, I know that you mean well, and I appreciate it. However, Golden Court Mountain is in no danger. Please return tomorrow. Su Jing was taken aback. He did not expect to be completely rejected. At this moment, Zhenghai walked into the hall with a smile on his face. Old senior, please wait. When Zhou saw Zhenghai, he stroked his beard and asked, do you have any brilliant ideas? Zhenghai said with a smile, I won't call it brilliant, but I do have an ordinary one. Let us hear it. The Heaven Choice Temple is skilled in Buddhist cultivation methods that include sound techniques and healing skills. Zhenghai looked at the monks. They might just come in handy, what with all the strange happenings lately. What strange happenings? Ever since he came back from the 3 sects, Zhou had been thinking about the 9-leaf stage. He had also been going through the scene of Yuan'er attempting to attain the 9-leaf stage. He rarely asked about the happenings of the world. Zhenghai said, while you were at the 3 sects, I loitered around the area during my free time. I noticed that there were signs of withering in several places. I was curious, and I went to investigate. As I expected, the area near the divine capital, Rubii, Anyang, Upper Prime, and even the Mausoleum of Swords have signs of withering. He paused before continuing, only a grand shaman is capable of such a feat. Mingxirin could not help but feel slightly shocked as he said, Grand Shaman? The Grand Shaman that was lying in wait outside the obedient villa back then? Zhenghai nodded. The Confucian sect's expansive heavenly energy and the Buddhist sect's cultivation methods have much more of a suppressing effect on witchcraft. Hence, I suggest that they remain here. Upon hearing this, Mingxirin rolled his eyes and said, I thought that it would be some legitimate reason. Do you think the evil sky pavilion needs reinforcements from them? What a joke. You, Abbot Su Jing, how long do you plan on remaining in Golden Court Mountain? Abbot Su Jing turned around and said, naturally, until the day of Benefactor Ji's great limit. When Zhu Honggong heard this, he was about to display his loyalty by hurling abuses at Su Jing. However, to his surprise, his master waved his hand and said, Su Jing. Buddhist master Su Jing faced Zhou reverently. Zhou said, I appreciate the fact that you intend on repaying me. When Ba Ma is dealt with, you may leave. He thought to himself, I'm just worried that you won't live to see the day of my great limit. When Su Jing heard this, he wondered in his mind, who's Ba Ma? However, he did not hesitate when he responded with a straightened palm, Amit Ba. Bring them to the northern pavilion. I know Buddhist master Su Jing. Allow me to escort them. Zhu Honggong pulled Su Jing out of the great hall. The moment they were out of the great hall, Zhu Honggong grabbed Su Jing's hand anxiously and said, I'm so happy to meet you here. Help me remove the suppressing formation veins from the Zen tunic. Su Jing smiled sincerely. He straightened his palm and said, Amit Ba. Quit your amitabbing. There aren't that many rules in the evil sky pavilion. Let's go. For sure. The two of them put an arm around each other's shoulders as they walked toward the northern pavilion. The monks who saw this were shocked and flustered. The great hall was silent at this moment. Zhou sat down. He addressed Mingxirin, summon Elder Pan and Elder Leng here. Yes, master. Shortly after, Lang Luo and Pan Litian followed Mingxirin into the great hall. The two of them cupped their fists slightly at Zhou and sat down at the sides. Why did you summon us here, pavilion master? Pan Litian asked. Zhou stroked his beard and said, the others may leave. Mingxirin and Zhenghai were stunned. They wondered what matter was so serious that they even had to leave. Mingxirin waved his hand. The female disciples left the great hall. Master. I want to listen as well, Mingxirin said after he mustered up his courage. He had a feeling what his master was about to discuss was important. In terms of closeness and trustworthiness, he felt that he was comparable to Lang Luo and Pan Litian. Zhenghai bowed and said, Old senior, you can just treat me as a pillar. I'll just stay here quietly. I won't say anything to anyone no matter what I hear. Zhou looked at the two of them and said. Since the two of you want to stay, you'll do well to listen carefully. Yes, master. Thank you, old senior. Lang Luo and Pan Litian had an expectant expression on their faces. Surely, it was something extraordinary if the pavilion master was taking it so seriously. Zhou's gaze fell on Lang Luo and Pan Litian. When I was having the chess match at the Luo sect's Holy Land, I discovered a way to attain the 9-leaf stage. Although Pan Litian and Lang Luo had seen and experienced many things, they were still shocked when they heard this. Zhenghai lost his footing and sat limply on the chair. Mingxirin looked at his master. A mixture of shock and awe could be seen in his eyes. Lang Luo said tremblingly in a hoarse voice, "You saw the answer during the chess match, Pavilion Master?" Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded as he said, Yuntian Luo sealed his method of attaining the nine-leaf stage inside the chessboard. Although he had limited examples to refer to, Lu Zhou could form his own conclusions based on his past knowledge and experience. The Golden Lotus under the 100 Tribulations Insight Avatar is what's stopping cultivators from attaining the nine-leaf stage. The four of them were stunned. For a time, they did not know what they were supposed to say. This was because Lu Zhou's statement had basically challenged the fundamental knowledge of the cultivation world. It was common knowledge that everyone in the cultivation world strived to condense the Golden Lotus of the 100 Tribulations Insight Avatar. With a Golden Lotus, they would be an elite. Lu Zhou spoke slowly, when a cultivator attempts to reach the 9-leaf stage from the 8-leaf stage, the Golden Lotus would absorb the cultivator's power and life. This is the truth behind the Great Limit. Countless cultivators have tried to attain the 9-leaf stage throughout the years. The numerous failures led to the discovery of the truth of the Great Limit. The Great Limit deterred other cultivators from attempting to attain the 9-leaf stage. Gradually, it became a fact to cultivators that it was impossible to attain the 9-leaf stage. The Golden Lotus is absorbing life. When I met Gong Yuandu back then, I had the same thought, but I wasn't sure. If that's the case, how much life will the Golden Lotus take away? Pan Litian looked outside the Great Hall and said, if a genius were to cultivate and attain the 8-leaf stage in his youth, could he supply the 9-leaf stage with his life? Take little Yuan. For example. In such situations, Zhenghai Jian and Mingshi Yin listened quietly without interrupting. Lang Luo shook his head. It's not feasible. Cultivation has been around for many years. There had been no shortage of shocking talents throughout history. Yet, I don't remember any of them reaching the 9-leaf stage. Lu Zhou said, so, the Golden Lotus will take at least 1,000 years of life. The Great Hall fell silent. Even a falling needle could be heard. 1,000 years. That was the longevity that only top cultivators could achieve. Most cultivators could not even make it to the 8-leaf stage, let alone having 1,000 years to live. For them, how could they ever attain the 9-leaf stage? Lang Luo and Pan Litian shook their heads helplessly. At this moment, Zhenghai Jian could not hold it in any longer. He bowed and said, may I offer my 2 cents? Let's hear it. When I was inside the palace, I read some books in the warehouse. Some of them contained records of the 8-leaf stage. I didn't think much of it then about them, but now, I remember some of the information does sound similar to what you're saying, old senior. Zhenghai Jian stroked his chin and continued, I can't really remember the original text, but there was one piece that said that a cultivator can only attain the 9-leaf stage if he was at the 8-leaf stage while he was still inside his mother's womb. Lang Luo, Pan Litian, and Mingshi Yin were speechless. Although the statement was crude and ridiculous, it did bear some semblance to what Lu Zhou said. If a cultivator was at the 8-leaf stage in his mother's womb, he would have 1,000 years to live, and he would have a chance to reach the 9-leaf stage. However, was it possible for someone to attain the 8-leaf stage while they were inside their mother's womb? Mingshi Yin rolled his eyes and said, even if you're already at the 8-leaf stage in your mother's womb, how are you going to guarantee that the Golden Lotus won't absorb 1,500 or 2,000 years of life? Mingshi Yin's question stumped everyone. Lu Zhou glanced at Mingshi Yin. Lang Luo and Pan Litian sighed. They were both 8-leaf elites. Naturally, they knew about the difficulties beneath the surface. At the end of the day, it's still a problem that can't be solved, Lang Luo said with a sigh. No, Lu Zhou said curtly. The four of them turned to look at Lu Zhou in unison. They saw an unbelievable expression of confidence on Lu Zhou's face. Lu Zhou said, let's think about this in reverse. In reverse? Zhenghai Jian and Mingshi Yin scratched their heads. Lang Luo and Pan Litian could not quite understand this statement as well. No matter how they thought about it, it was a problem with no solution. Please be clear, Pavilion Master. Lang Luo rose to his feet. Pan Litian dared not dawdle. He stood up as well. Mingxian and Zhenghai did the same. Lu Zhou's eyes were as bright as flames as he looked at everyone gathered there and said, since the golden lotus is taking life away, all we have to do is to cut it off. Lang Luo, Pan Litian, Zhenghai, and Mingxian looked as though they had been struck by a bolt of lightning. This statement stirred up waves in their hearts. Lang Luo and Pan Litian, who had close to a millennium worth of experiences, and the young Zhenghai and Mingxian were equally stunned at this moment. Zhenghai gulped. Wait up. Let me breathe. He raised a hand and rubbed his chest before saying, Old Senior, if the gold lotus is severed, we'd suffer great damage. We won't be in peak condition. How are we supposed to attain the 9-leaf stage? The four of them had forgotten about the differences in their age. This was also a question that the other three wanted to know the answer to. Lu Zhou smiled warmly and said, Isn't there a way to sever the golden lotus without being affected? The four of them were stunned. From the current situation, Lu Zhou was of the opinion that there were two ways to enter the 9-leaf stage. The first way was to fulfill the requirement of the 8-leaf golden lotus and enter the 9-leaf stage conventionally. This method was very difficult because nobody knew how many years of life the golden lotus would absorb. It was possible for it to absorb 1,000 or even 2,000 years. This was also the reason why Lu Zhou stocked up on reversal cards. The second way was to sever the golden lotus. Lu Zhou's tone was calm as he said, Have you ever thought about it? A cultivation method whereby the golden lotus is severed? The four of them gulped. Such a cultivation method was unheard of. However, who could say that it was impossible when nobody had studied it before? A 9-leaf stage without the golden lotus. That can only be regarded as a quasi-9-leaf stage, at most, Zhenghai said. Even without the golden lotus, it's still a realm higher. It's enough for your opponent to crush you with the difference in your levels and his avatar. From what we know now, the height of a 9-leaf avatar would be at least 150 feet, Mingxian said. Lang Luo and Pan Litian nodded. The two of them sighed. Pan Litian said with a sigh, I'm old. My mind isn't as sharp as you youngsters. After saying this, Zhenghai and Mingxian looked at Lu Zhou in unison. Pan Litian's old face blushed. He felt slightly embarrassed. If I'm old, what would that make the pavilion master? This was awkward. In any case, their discussion today was sure to change their previous cultivation methods. Lang Luo and Pan Litian bowed at the same time. It's better to listen to you than read the books for 100 years. Mingxian and Zhenghai were speechless. Lu Zhou stroked his beard in satisfaction as he nodded and said, They're merely thoughts. If you're trying it out, proceed with extreme caution. The four of them bowed deeply. They knew that they were not supposed to attain the 9-leaf stage by severing their golden lotuses unless they had a perfect plan or had no other choice. That method was too shocking. Naturally, Lu Zhou was merely providing them with a new way to think about this. After all, who would actually be willing to do that to themselves? Lu Zhou had the reversal cards. So long as he had enough of them, he could try to attempt it when he was at the 8-leaf stage. However, it was unclear if there were any other undiscovered effects by practicing this method. Meanwhile, at the exit of the Mausoleum of Swords, a person with messy hair, grimy face, and dressed in rags who emitted a peculiar aura crawled out. He took step after step, hauling a thick rope over his shoulder, out of the Mausoleum of Swords. At the other end of the rope, a completely withered corpse was being brought out. The corpse was covered in old, tattered monk robes. The person continued walking. In the next second, he appeared several hundred feet away.